Started.
Oh yeah, good mix picking.
Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our winter general meeting plus 3D art slash Blender workshop. Thank you all for showing up. So good to see you guys here. And I'm gonna quickly take like 5 minutes of Jay's time to go over our plans for the semester. It's a very exciting semester, but if you haven't been to this club before, the Black Keyboard, okay. If you haven't been to this club before, MacGDC is the McMaster Game Development Club. And we do like a bunch of presentations, workshops, hangouts, game jams, all the sorts of stuff. And we don't even cover like one aspect of game dev. We try to cover all our bases, programming, art, game design, music, and writing. So if you're interested in any of these, or if you're just a fan of video games in general, you're always welcome to our club and to our workshops. Um, we're starting up our weekly game dev circles again. If you don't know what these are drop-in weekly hangout sessions, very casual meetings where you can showcase your projects, anything else you're working on, meet other people, play games, work on your games, do schoolwork, and just hang out. And it's a very casual thing. You don't need to sign up. Yep.
Is there one on this Thursday too?
There is one this Thursday. It starts this week. And it happens weekly, Thursdays, 6 to 8 p.m. in ETB 119. It's the room like over there, same building though. And for our game jam, we hold one game jam per semester. And I mean, in the past, we haven't really revealed the dates this early, but just to give everyone a heads up, the dates for our game jam 2026 will be from March 5th to March 28th. So stay tuned. We're gonna try and make this a very big and very exciting event. We have lots of things planned, and yeah, I mean that's all the news for this semester. I'll hand it off to Jay now to start the workshop.
Well, let's. All right. Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Jay. I'm one of the execs, mainly the 3D modeling exec. Um, just a quick question. Show of hands. Who actually has tried using Blender before? Okay. So, does everyone know what the donut tutorial is? Okay. So, have any of you guys actually fully made the donut tutorial? Don't worry, me neither. In fact, like I think 3 years ago I actually started my Blender journey, and I started with a donut tutorial. Yeah, let's just say there was a lot of restarts. And when I was thinking about why, I actually don't have a presentation, so I can't really show you. But like when I was thinking about why, I think it's mainly because of something called tutorial hell. Does anyone know what tutorial hell is? Yeah. So basically, for those who don't know, it's basically kind of like following a tutorial and just try to copy what they are doing without actually applying or learning what actually is happening. And trust me, Blender is a it's a very dangerous place for tutorial hells. Like for example, if I go on YouTube right now and if I search up Blender tutorial, yeah, we got the donuts, we got the basics, we got the how I made this in 3D, like the things I must do, things you must do as a beginner. And trust me, as a beginner, it's very overwhelming. Trust me, I've been there. And it still is very overwhelming, to be honest. But anyway, so hopefully today, I'm gonna go more over concepts and like just more like my thinking. Because I'm not sure if you saw the Discord, but we're gonna be trying to make let's just see if this. Yeah. We're gonna be trying to make something similar to like this treasure chest. Now, the thing is, I kind of forgot how to make this. So we're gonna be learning together and going over concepts together on how we could potentially develop something like this. So let's go on this wild ride together. Okay, so first of all, does anyone not have Blender? Because if so, you're free to download from the website itself. There's many versions. I think there's also older versions, but for now, you can just click this one, and there's an exe for like actually downloading the program. The zip file, like similar to how Godot does it, if anyone does Godot, is where you can just unzip the Blender file, and it just immediately in that file. Very good for school computers. Wish I knew that 2 years ago. But yeah. So once you install Blender, we can just pop that thing right open. Just take some time to load. All right. So okay. This is the Blender workspace. This is where most of your modeling will happen. So I'm just gonna run you down the quick basics of like how to move, how to navigate, and one quick note is that most of my inputs will be seen right here. Like for example, you can see that I'm holding my left mouse button, and you can just kind of refer to here. Um, I will try to go a little bit slower too, and please raise your hand if you do not if you need some more clarification or you want me to go over something again. We also have Muiz, who is the test subject for this workshop, so kudos to him. But also just let me. I'm probably gonna be focused on my laptop, so just let me know if anything's going on there. All right, so basic movement. So in order to we can use the left mouse button to click on things and drag if we hold the left like mouse button. We can also use the scroll wheel button, like hold it down to pan around. We can hold shift and use the middle mouse button to kind of like move around as well. We can also use like this thing right here and just move it like that. And that's pretty much what we need to know for now. Of course, I'll get to more hotkeys later. But for now, I think those are okay. So, treasure chest. Does anyone know what a treasure chest looks like? Yeah, me neither. So this is where one thing is to always look at reference images. Like when you're making art, like kind of like knowing what your thing looks like is always a good idea. So I'm just gonna search up chest reference images. Treasure chest reference images. And now these are all good reference images. However, the reference images that I like to look for are the ones that either show a front and a side and maybe a top. And I can explain this later, but like for example, like this one, this one seems like a decent one. However, if anyone wants to do like another reference image, for example, like this one also seems like one that we could possibly do. But for now, I think I'm just going to switch to this one because I've actually practiced on this reference image like 5 times. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna save image as. Yes, I'll send it to the Discord too. Chest image. Always good to name your things. Image. There we go. All right, and we can just kind of. I'll just put that in the general chat. I'll put that in the general chat for now. There we go. All right. Fire. Anyways, okay. So this is the viewport, and I know, and you may notice that when I'm moving around, you may notice like this red. Oh, you don't really see that red. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure on your blender you should see like a red and green line. So the red, if you look at the top here, it kind of shows you like the X, Y, and Z, kind of like the GDC logo. If you kind of position it like that, kind of looks like the GDC logo where it's like the all 3 dimensions. Um, but anyways, if we also click on them, we can also snap to that viewport, and it's very cool just to snap. Like for example, if I'm like in this weird angle, I could just easily snap, and there we go. I'm back to normal. And this is actually one of the reasons why we wanted like a top, side, and front view, because we can easily snap to to these viewpoints, and we can immediately just get snapped to the camera. Anyways, let's actually import this thing too. So one thing nice about Blender is that we can just simply drag and drop like that. And now we have a reference image. And just to get the for this reference for this workshop, I'm just gonna. Sorry, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, sorry, what did you just do? Did you just drag the image into
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you-
One thing you can also do actually is you can click Add Image Reference, like up there, and you can hopefully scroll down. Thankfully, I named it so it says chess image JPG, and there we go. One quick note: if you see something like this, but then like you move your mouse and then it suddenly disappears, that's completely fine. But and what's actually happening is that it's only being visible on that one angle. But if you don't like that, you can fix that by going to this little red data object property here and click perspective. So once you do that, you can now see that both don't it doesn't disappear when I move the camera. And then you may notice that it's also invisible in the back. So to change that, I think it's this one or one of yeah, side. It's the side. There you go. Because it can show on both sides. That makes sense. All right. Anyways, I'm now going to delete this. Okay. So cool. We got a front view or side view, one of the two. But now we want to make the other one. And one thing we can do instead of importing the actual object is by clicking it and press duplicate objects. And of course I can just do this, but you notice how here it kind of shows like Control C, Control V, Shift D. Those are what we call shortcuts. And shortcuts are shortcuts because it just saves a little bit of time. You might not know them right now, but it is good practice to try to memorize them. And you mainly memorize them through like practice and just keep doing it. So I'm gonna just do Shift D to duplicate this. And now it's gonna follow my cursor, so I'm just gonna right click and then press and then go here, which also is shortcut for R, so I'm gonna press R. And now it's kind of a bit hard to rotate this thing. And if only I could make this rotate on one axis. And fortunately, if I just press Z, I can rotate on the Z axis, X to rotate on the X axis, and Y to rotate on the Y axis. In this case, we want the Z axis and try to rotate that, but it's kind of hard to get exactly 90 degrees. But fortunately, Blender's nice, and we can just simply type in 90, like that. Okay, cool. So now what we actually did was when we clicked X and Y, we have the two reference images, and then we can get a perspective on what this chess actually is going to look like. So, but the thing is, this cube is kind of in the way, and I don't want to make it like, I don't want to like accidentally like delete it because then I don't have a cube. So one thing I can do is I can go up here into something called viewport displays, and there's plenty of viewport displays. For example, there's viewport shading. Yeah, what's up?
Oh, I had a question.
Yeah, what's up?
I missed the part.
Oh, yeah. Not okay. Fair point. Good question. So let's say I'm just gonna use this cube as an example. Let's say I have my cube right here, and I kind of want it in the center, and I could of course try to move it like that. It's a bit complicated. So one thing I can do is I can actually inspect its properties by pressing N, and when I press N, it tells me the location, the rotation, scale, and other properties. For this case, we can just press 0, 0, 0. Just like that, we have a cube at the center. This also works with reference images, also for like actually it works for almost any object too. Anyways, I'm going to delete this now. Okay, let's actually get to sorry? What's up?
So is N like information?
Yeah, N is like information showing properties. We will get to this later on, but like if you also have some certain add-ons, like you can also see, they would also be in here too. You don't need to worry about that right now though. Right now, all we just need to care about is pressing tools. Sorry, I mean item tool, like that. Alright, so, anyways, there's also one more thing called toggle X-ray. An X-ray, kind of like any other X-ray, up here is like, we can now see through an image, which is really cool. And now,
Sorry, where does you toggle vector?
oh yeah, up here. The shortcut for it is also Alt Z. If I had chalk, I could write it. Actually, no, that's fine. That's fine. All right. So this is what. So we can't really use a. I'm not sure how people use reference images. But yeah, what's up?
Very, very quickly.
Go ahead.
Did you load the transparent to the view again?
Oh yeah. So we can do it up here. Yeah. Yeah, like that. It kind of just shows us a transparency of things like that. And there's also Alt Z, but for now, just as long as you know it's up there, that's very cool. It's good for seeing through objects, making sure things are not opaque. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, now let's actually get to the fun part, the modeling part. Now, all right, so I'm gonna press object mode up here, and I'm gonna switch modes because in this mode we can only kind of move, like if I click here, move, or also G. We can just kind of we can only move it. We can't really move or edit any of the vertices. So to do that, we can just press here and click edit mode. So now we're in the edit mode. Okay, cool. Okay. So, in edit mode, like I can now freely click. I can now freely select some things and just move them around. One thing I really want to point out is that in X-ray mode, in X-ray mode, you can actually select vertices. Sorry, I should say this another way. Like in non-X-ray mode, like if I select, like hold down left and select like this, you will notice that I can only grab using G the 4 vertices in front of me. But if I want to select all the vertices through that part, I can go into X-ray mode by pressing Alt Z or pressing this button. I can then select again, and you notice how I can select all the parts. Very cool. And this is also really helpful because now we can start to kind of make our chest kind of look into a chest shape rather than cube. So, first thing we're gonna do is first we're gonna move it a little bit down. So of course I can just do this and move it down. However, I'm gonna be a bit fancy and just use the button G. And to ensure that it only moves in one axis, I can press Z. So G then Z to make it move on one axis. One thing to note is that if you did not do it on the Z axis, you can also try pressing X or Y. As long as you see like a line that kind of makes it go up and down, that's all good. Okay, sweet. So it's a bit big, so what I can do is I can kind of scale it down, also by pressing S. I can scale it down. Okay, that's cool, but now it's scaled down, and it's scaled to the center. So I'm gonna just move it down like this, and to kind of fit it into shape, it's something like this. Yeah, that looks good. Now, in order to make extra geometry, yeah, what's up? Sorry, did someone raise a hand or? Okay, I'm going schizo. All right, so in order to make more geometry, like I can't just simply move this up and try to fit that in because I want that part to stay where it is, but I also need a new part over there. So fortunately, we can use this tool called Extrude Region, or by simply pressing E, and we can grab that and move it like that, and click it around there. Now, one fair warning. If I press E, then I accidentally right-click, I can't just extrude again because what actually happened is that if we look in the bottom, like right here, this kind of shows us properties of what actually we did. Like for example, if we rotate an object, it's gonna tell in that bottom corner, it's gonna tell us how much we rotated it by, how much we scaled it by, and all that stuff. In this case, we extruded it by 0 meters, 0 in the Y direction, and 0 in the Z direction, which basically means it went nowhere. So one thing we can do is we can either press Control Z, Or if, like for example, like Control Z doesn't work for you, something you can do is you can either select all like this. Yeah, what's up?
Can you show again how you like when I try to scale the box so it fits the image? I'm moving all the edges, but I don't think I'm doing it your way because you're moving like one edge.
Um, yeah. So basically, like so so like so when I press S, it kind of looks like this, or are you getting something like this? Uh, oh, matching the square. Okay, so basically in X-ray mode.
Higher.
Oh wait, is the reference image also like scaling too?
I'm just saying that all the sides of the box are scaled. Is that
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So you see, in this case, I'm just kind of scaling all the axes. We'll worry about like scaling on the other side later. But for now, we're just gonna like keep it simple, scale it in one direction, and anyways. So should I wait or is it all good? Okay, okay. Anyway, anyways, so basically, as I said before, like, oh no, I accidentally extruded and I cannot use the Control Z key, for example. One thing we can do is we can like select the whole thing or press A and click merge, press M to merge things. So merging basically means like if you have two vertices, merging them into one. Kind of like an icon, but no one really understands that reference. Anyways, so something we can do is now click by distance. So you'll notice at the bottom here it says remove 4 vertices. So that basically means like 4 vertices at a certain distance where it's too close that we just kind of merge them together. And now we can simply just did someone just say how to merge? I'll press M. Or if you click right click, I think merge vertices right here also works. Alright, so extrude once again. And now this time we're gonna scale it down. We can either do two things. We can scale it down or we can move vertices one by one. And for this example, I'm going to move the vertices like, I'm going to press G then Y on these two vertices and move them like that. And press G then Y to move them. So kind of like it fits the reference image. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like this is, like, the chest is kind of symmetrical. And like, doing all 4 sides is very annoying. So wouldn't it be easier if somehow we could get it to, if we move one side, like all the other sides also worked? Well, not to worry because Blender has something really nice called the mirror modifier. So if you click on this wrench tool, there's something called modifiers. And there's so many modifiers to go through, like more than just these few. But in this case, we're gonna do mirror. Actually, before we do that, there's something we must do first. So I'm gonna quickly go to edit mode, and in order to make the mirror actually work, I need to make the piece of the quarter because right now we just have a whole part for here. So I'm going to do something called a loop cut, and a loop cut basically cuts the mesh and slices it. So in this case, I can just press this and slice this in half, and I'm just gonna press right click to do nothing else with it, and just press escape. Now, I'm gonna also do one in the center as well, like this. Perfect. It's a bit hard to see, so one thing you can do is also, do you see this eye image at the top? We can just kind of remove that to make the visibility, and we can now see better. Going back to select box, we can now select these. We can now go here and hold shift, and we can also hold shift here too, and press delete at these vertices. And now what we effectively have done is we created a full quarter piece of our model, which is really nice because now we get to use the mirror modifier and press X and Y. It might be Z too, but you might want to experiment with that. So yeah, just it's always good to experiment to see which axes you really need. Perfect. Okay, very cool. Let's get back to it. I'm gonna make these more visible again. All right. So on this side, it looks very cool. And on this side, first of all, I think we need to go back to object mode and move this a little bit on the x-axis. Like, let's actually use this reference image. There's actually no difference between these two reference images. I just think this one's the front, so I'm just gonna choose that one as the front. All right. So now let's go back into edit mode. Let's see how things are going. All right. So now we can just simply select one side of our model, and we can, well, in this case I want to move it a little bit to the right, so I'm going to select these and just press G, then X to move it on the x-axis, and yeah, this looks about right. And now, fortunately, I can just simply press G, then X, and look how it moves both sides, which is really nice for our demonstration. Alright, so you don't need to turn on, so you can stay right here for now, but like, what I'm gonna do is, well, not what I'm gonna do, is it's a box. It's a box, but now let's actually add some extra cool things to it, because right now I just have a box, I can't even open it. But yeah, so let's see, let's look at this reference image and think, what do we feel like adding? I guess I could add, like, you see these little iron things? I'm assuming it's iron. Screws? Like these things? Are these
Just the long things and there's the little.
Yeah. For now I think we can ignore the screws and focus on like the main structure first. You can do the screws first if you want. I just think it would make a bit more sense once we actually get the whole shape. We can simply add those screws later on. So I guess we can do this iron thingy. And according to our reference image, kind of looks like the metal goes fully through to an extent. Yeah, we're gonna see and just see what happens. So, anyways, going back to our model, now let's try to add some geometry here. And the reason why I want to add some geometry here is because I want to make these kind of, well, I mean, I'm having a brain fart, give me a second. Okay. Yeah, so basically, in order to make these iron lines, we need more vertices to actually give it some more defining features. And one way we can do this in this case is by doing something called a loop cut. So you guys all remember the loop cut from like literally 10 minutes ago. So we can do that, and we can just make a loop cut maybe right here, and we can maybe select these vertices, and since we're in X-ray mode, it selects the whole thing. But since we're in mirror mode, it doesn't really matter. But now, I'm gonna press G, then X to move it. Or something I actually learned when preparing for this workshop is if you press G then G, you can kind of make your thing move along the axis, which I think is kind of cool. Anyway. Like for example, if I press G, then G again, it just moves along the axis, which I think is really nice to know, but that's just a me thing. Anyways, let's make another loop cut just for this metal part. Once again, I'm going to press G 2 times just to move it. You can also just select it, then just press G the next. It's really up to you on how you want to do it. And we're gonna, I think, oh yeah, sorry, there's one more piece of metal right there. There we go. I think that's fine. If you guys want to adjust any of it, feel free to do so. But for now, I think I'm gonna leave it like this. All right, now on this side, we're gonna do a similar thing, where we're gonna do a loop cut using Control R, and I'm just gonna click and drag it maybe right there. That looks good, and I can then select these vertices and try to make it align with the line right here. Okay, cool. Let's see. Let's look at our thing and let's see. I guess I can also add like little loop cuts here at these little metal I really don't know what this is. I should have looked at the anatomy of a chest before this. My bad, guys. But okay. Now it looks almost ready, but except we're kind of missing this one cut here. And I can't really loop cut it because it's only lines, and that's not really gonna work in our favor right now. So in order to do this, something we're gonna do is something called the knife tool. And the knife tool is pretty much good at what knives do best. They kind of cut things. And so what happens is when I click on an edge, it makes this little line. And basically what this line is basically like a new edge I'm making. And so I'm going to align it with my axis right here. Just click that, it doesn't have to be perfect. And now I'm going to press enter. So notice how it made a new edge. Sorry, I'm clicking. Yeah, what's up?
Once you press to get the knife tool.
K for knife. Ah, shoot. I completely missed a step. It's okay. So, now,
Also, wait, do you remember where to make the images perspective?
oh, like how to make them on like this angle or this angle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, so one thing you can do is you can press N and just kind of focus on and rotate it around.
Or I mean, like when you rotate the camera, for me, they disappear.
Oh yeah. So basically, click data, and it's most likely because either your perspective is off, or because or the side is only on the front or on the back. So it's either like one of this or one of the both front and back. No? Oh, is it pretty much the same, or You can also select the image, like just if you click on the collection. Oh, hello, Tristan. Hello. Are you on edit mode? Yeah. Try to go in object mode and
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, there you go. Okay, cool. All right, so if you guys have a good eye, which I clearly don't, I'm gonna first like turn off these reference images. You'll notice this little ugly clipping right there, and that is a mistake of mine. My bad. And basically, what's happening is that like when we mirror, we kind of like mirror like where it kind of reflects off. This part is pretty much clipping through the mirror, and that's not really ideal, especially once we actually turn this back into vertices. It's gonna be a little bit complicated to do. But worry not. Blender is nice. Blender is kind. So we're gonna go back to modifiers, and do you see this thing called clipping? So it just says prevent vertices from going through the mirror. Something that we should turn on, and we can just and it's not gonna do it automatically. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select these vertices, but I don't want to select each one like one by holding shift and doing that. That's too much work. One thing I can do actually is I can hold Alt and click, and it kind of selects all my edges. And now I'm going to press G, then Y just to move it on like this axis, and you see how like it's no longer clipping now, and it's kind of like staying like this. So once again, now everything is okay. Okay, sweet. Crisis averted. Okay, let's actually go back to modeling now. I'm gonna turn on these reference images again. All right, let's see where I am at. Okay. So, once again, we just only have a basic block right now. We've only been cutting it, but we actually haven't been modifying it. So one thing we can do. So there's a few ways we can do this. Something very beautiful about Blender is that there's many ways to do things, and there's like for example, like in this metal beam, you could say like, okay, I can just select all these things, maybe like that, and I can try extruding it out like that. And you know what? that works. It could work, and there's many ways to actually go on about it. And hello. And just because I'm doing it one way doesn't mean you guys have to keep following. And one thing I actually encourage people to do is after this workshop, they can try practicing again, recalling what they actually learned from this workshop, and practicing for themselves. Because trust me, I think this chess tutorial, like I had to take like 4 times just to actually understand what I was doing. And I know 4 times sounds like a lot, but of course it's also like thinking about how to teach it, how to actually explain what I'm doing. But like it's okay to take that time. Blender is a very hard software, and you guys are all making very good progress. All right, so let's start with this side. Now, how I'm gonna do it actually is I'm going to do something called, I'd say, like extruding inwards. So that rather than making my metal parts go outwards, I'm gonna make my wooden parts, like the wooden parts, go inwards instead. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna do that by going to this mode here by selecting, in my select mode, just face, edge, vertice. And I'm gonna select all these. I'm gonna hold shift and select all these. Now, don't do what I'm gonna do next, but basically if I press E then S, it kind of doesn't really extrude in a way I would want it to do. And this is because Blender follows something, well, I mean, it's not really Blender follows, it's more like Blender is, it's kind of Blender's kind of taking the midpoint between these two faces and is scaling from there. Because when you scale something, you need like a little point of origin, and you can just go big or small around about that point. So, in order to give us a little bit of more, I'd say, creative freedom, I'm going to only select these two faces, and I'm going to then close teams, and then I'm going to press E. And the reason I press E is because I don't want to, because if I move, oh, wait, give me a second. Yeah, so if I don't press E and I just scale it, hang on, that's a bit, here, let's use this example. Like, you see how it kind of moves the whole thing around the object as well? That's not really something we want when we want to make extrusions to wood. We only want to affect the wood and not really the metal. So that's why we extrude things in this case. For this example though, let's see what's going on here. There we go. So basically what I did was I pressed A, M, and clicked merge by distance. And as I said before, like this is good at like dealing with extrusions and dealing with geometry or extra vertices that really shouldn't be there.
How do you do that merge by distance?
Yeah. So I'm gonna press A to select everything.
Yeah.
M and and click add distance. So this basically means like how close do these vertices need to be before I decide to merge them together. You can also do this by pressing right click and clicking and in vertice modes, and clicking merge vertices. Add cursor, collapse, by distance, add center. In this case, we want to use add distance. And just for funsies, look what happens with add center. It just goes to the center. So yeah, probably don't use merge add center for now. Anyways, once again, E then S. I'm just gonna extrude it like this. Now, this is also just creative freedom, but I'm gonna try my best to make it at least match the square a little bit. So I'm gonna use the basic tools like scale. I'm gonna scale, try to move this up by pressing G and like all that cool stuff. So just take some time to move it a little bit like that. I think this is I think that's one okay. And now I'm gonna do that for all the other little extrusions. So for example, I'm gonna do it here. Maybe I want this one to. You know what? Maybe I actually want this one to be a bit bigger. Maybe something like that. Yeah. Maybe I want to be a bit creative with it, and actually no, I'm just gonna do evenness for now. For now, but if you guys want to try doing that, that's completely fine. It does not affect the workshop in any way. All right. So I'm just gonna scale these all up. If you guys want me to go faster on these, I can. I'm just going a bit slower so I can give you guys some time. I'm just gonna select these. Scale. Trying to match it. Just trying to do my best to match it. Doesn't have to be perfect because this is just a reference image. Yeah, that looks good. And finally, gonna do this. Just move that up a little bit. Perfect. Now I'm gonna go on this side. I'm just gonna press E then S, just scale that. And it seems like using my E then S method doesn't really extrude it as much as these parts. So of course something I can try is I can just simply press E, then just do that. Where instead of scaling it, I'm extruding it inwards. And the reason why like doing E then S happens is because like it goes to this midpoint right here and it just kind of tries to scale at that point, which is not really something we really want. So I'm just gonna press E just to extrude inward, sorry, my bad. And like that. Now, this is a really scary part because this has traumatized me and all my test iterations when doing this workshop. But don't worry, don't worry. I will walk you through it. So basically, I'm just gonna demonstrate this. Please do not copy what I'm gonna do. So basically, one might also think to do evenness as well, right here. And of course it does work, but here's the problem. If you actually look inside the model, it looks a little, well, we see edges clip into faces, and that's probably not a good thing, especially if we want to model this or change this in the future later, because then we would have to deal with it in the future, and that becomes a big headache. So, and one thing I like to do is I like to think about like why those things happen. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm just actually gonna press this, and watch what happens when I extrude this. Like, what do you guys think is gonna happen when I extrude this one leg? Well, some might think like it might also extrude with this little edge here, but actually, it doesn't. It doesn't, and then it just does this, which is sometimes something we want, but in this case we really don't want that. And so it's a little bit confusing at first, I will agree. But I think one tip I like to think about is thinking about what our 3D model actually is. So once again, we said it's a chest. And so like for example, we could also wait, what am I trying? Sorry. So yeah, so thinking about what the model actually is. So like, of course it's a chest, but does that mean we need to? Here, let me just show you. Like, if I do this and then go into X-ray mode, you notice how it selects all these like bottom faces, and that's probably not what we want because then it interferes with this with the metal section. It interferes with the wooden section in the bottom. So I think actually we only need to select these 3 faces and then work our magic of workaround magic of E then S. However, I'm gonna undo that. There we go. There we go. So once again, okay, now you guys are free to follow along. So in this case, I'm just gonna do E then S by selecting these three. And sure, it looks, and then once I do it, it's gonna look a little bit ugly, but you'll see that it becomes a lot easier to fix than whatever monstrosity that was a few minutes ago. So we're just gonna simply press E then S. Maybe use the reference image to move it. Oh, okay. I think I made it a bit too big. Something like this. Something like this. There we go. So now I'm just gonna exit X-ray mode. We notice that it's still a little bit pointed out, but at least there is no vertices and edges that are actually merging in together, which makes our lives a little bit easier because now we can actually physically see, okay, this vertice connects to that vertice, which probably goes down to that vertice, which goes to that, to go over there, which is really nice. Now, for the sake of time, I think I'm going to leave it like this, And if there's a little bit more time in the further on, I can go over like what else to do, because I bet you're wondering. You notice this little curve, and you might be wondering how to make that curve, and that is something we can go over hopefully by at the end of the workshop. It's 6:51, so I don't exactly know how much time I'm going to take on the other parts, but for now we're gonna leave it as is. Like that is completely fine. Like we have no edges that are going into each other, so I think I'm satisfied with that. All right, so I'm gonna just turn off X-ray mode and see where we're at. Yeah, that looks fine. If I want to modify something, I can simply just go back to edit mode, and instead of doing E then S, I can just simply press G and hold X to go in the direction I want to go, and just move it like that. There we go. Perfect. Okay, cool. What next? I guess the outside looks reasonably fine. Of course, there are a lot of gimmicks we can add later on, but let's focus on like the main things, and maybe for now we can ignore this little metal opening thing. So in this case, I think I also want to actually open the chest, because if I look inside right now, it's kind of empty and kind of blank, and if I open this, I'd see nothing. So anyways, we're gonna actually try opening this, but in order to open this, a chest actually, truth be told, has two parts. We only have one. So we're gonna do the tried and true. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back into X-ray mode, and I think it kind of like opens around here maybe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this side and select all the things there, and I'm going to and I want to separate it. And to separate it, I'm going to press P, and by selection. There we go. So now we have now we have a chest on the top side and a chest on the bottom side. And for now, I'm just going to also remove these reference images. And I just completely forgot something very important. But guys, okay, when you guys were following this workshop, who accidentally pressed the reference image instead of the actual cube? Okay, well, I mean, sometimes I do that, and that's really annoying because, like, let's say I want to click on the cube, but then I accidentally click this reference image and I'm moving it all around instead. That's annoying, in my opinion, at least. So something we can do, actually, fun fact, is if we go to the top here and click filter, we can see restriction toggle. So these kind of show all the restrictions that our model has. So we're gonna click this one, and when it's blue, that means it's actually visible in our workspace. So now you will notice that these little click things are here, so we can click these two. And now we can't actually click this. Like, I'm gonna try clicking through here, and I'm selecting the chest instead of the image, which is very cool. Unfortunately, we actually don't need... Unfortunately, we actually can just hide these in the viewport now, as we're pretty much done with them. Alright, so this looks like a very, very decent image of a chest. But when we open it, it's kind of mid. Not gonna lie. But, so, what does a chest insides look like? Well, I think it's just like I'm not gonna look inside I'm not gonna look at a reference image just in case I accidentally see some inside of a human's chest, which I don't really want to do. So, I'm just going to assume that it's just this big rectangle. But the problem is, this isn't a rectangle. This is like... It kind of has some bumps, kind of has some things, and I want to make this rectangle. And there's a few ways to do it, and one way someone might say is like, okay, actually no. So to make this a rectangle, we're gonna first try to make the edges rectangular, because if I just try to, you might think, okay, we can just select all these vertices by holding Alt then click, if I know where my mouse is, and I can just press E then S. It kind of goes to the center and doesn't really end well. So I'm just gonna undo that. Instead, we're gonna do a little bit of interesting tactics, in my opinion. So in order to make this a rectangular shape, we can kind of identify where it might not be rectangular. Like, this seems pretty rectangular. This also isn't really rectangular. Goodbye, Aiden. So let's try to make things rectangular. And one thing you might be asking is, Jay, why rectangular? Why must you like the number 4? And that's actually a really good question. One that I'm willing to show you right here. So, for what I'm about to do right now, do not follow, just watch. Okay, so let's take a cube, for example. And let's take a cone. A cone. Alright. So, one important thing about one cool thing about a cube is that it has 4 sides. And when I say 4 sides, it's like, you know, it has 4 vertices on each face. And and obviously just by looking at it, it looks already simple enough, like, you know, square, all that cool stuff. And since it's quads, that's what we call like 4-side things. We can easily loop cut things. We can easily loop cut. We can easily do something called bevel, which is if I just press Ctrl B, I can do this cool thing. And by scrolling the mouse wheel, I can do this cool thing. But okay, cool. That's very cool topology and cool geometry stuff. Keywords. But well, let's see what happens if I do that on a cone. So if we just look at a cone, it's 1, 2, 3. 3 sides per face. That's triangle. We don't like triangle because if I press Control Alt, like as I am right now, it's not loop cutting, and that's not really cool. And I can try doing a bevel. I mean, I can't really do one here. I mean, and I can't really I guess I can try selecting this, and this kind of works, I guess. But it's kind of, I mean, it works, but it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's weird. It just works. But yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say with that. But basically, one of the main reasons is because you can't really loop cut this thing. Like, I can't cut this thing in half. Now, one interesting thing actually is, I'm going to click my cube again, and this time, I'm going to press these 2, and I'm going to click subdivide. Now, it still has its 4 sides. But the thing is, it has this extra vertices, so in reality, this thing has 5 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Which is not really which Blender doesn't really like, because watch what happens when I try to loop cut my cube now. It's not loop cutting properly, and that's not good. And so that's kind of this an idea of why Blender likes 4 sides. And also just for the funsies, of course, if I click add and torus, you will notice that even though this is a circular thing, if I go into edit mode, you will notice that they're all 4 sides as well, which probably says a lot about why Blender likes 4. Actually, it doesn't. Okay, to be honest, I don't really know the mathematical or like the code behind it, but I like to think of it as like Blender's like thought process works best when things has like at least 4 not at least, it has 4 edges. So anyways, we're gonna go here and back to our actual model. So to make things have 4 sides, I'm just going to extrude like this. This is a perfectly good rectangle. Extrude like this. And it's also a perfectly good rectangle. And now I'm going to select these 2 vertices and just kind of merge them together. But this time, we're not going to press add distance. They're kind of far apart. We're just going to click add center this time. And you see how they do it like that. And now we're just going to, once again, do a similar idea. Like that. And I can already hear everybody being like, okay, but Jay, you just talked about 4 sides, but this thing clearly has more than 4 sides. And while that is true, one thing to also, while that is true, I think one important thing to think about is kind of think about what we're trying to actually do with our model. For example, like we just want this to extrude simply inside, and then eventually like make the rectangle at the bottom, which is also a 4-sided thing. Now I may be wrong on that, because of course I'm not perfect, and I'm probably not the best Blender modeler here, but that's okay. That's completely okay. But for now, since we're mainly only focusing on the inside of our chest, as long as the chest inside has 4 sides, I think that's okay. So now we're just gonna select all these and then press F, just to kind of fill it in. Once again here, I'm just gonna select all these and just simply press F to fill. This also works with vertices as well. Like for example, if I have 2 vertices, I can select those 2 and press F, and it fills them in. Also works with edges as well. Anyways, now we have a semi decent 4-sided shape, and we're just going to now extrude it downwards and now we're kind of getting the thickness of the chest. And for anyone that used Blender, I know you might be asking yourself, well, why didn't you use the solidify modifier? And for anyone that doesn't know, basically the solidify modifier pretty much increases a thickness of an object. Maybe not the cube, but maybe a torus. So like you'll notice that if I use solidify, there we go. Like you see, it increases thickness like that. However, for the chest, let's just see what actually happens when we use. Let's use the top part because I didn't touch that yet. Let's see what happens when I use solidify. It works for now, but then when I increase it, honestly, this is a good game asset, I guess, but I don't, maybe like these are the eyes, and anyways, since this is a modifier, modifiers are like non-destructive things. So like even if I press tab to go back to edit mode and I hide these, my chest is still perfectly fine. it's only a modifier that kind of modifies these edges, these vertices, these faces, that makes it look like this abomination known as Greg. I'm gonna name this thing Greg. So one thing we can just do is we can press X and back to normal. Okay, anyways, let's finish the bottom half of this. Alright, so now I'm going to go into vertice mode and just kind of close it in. And the reason why we can't fill it in right now is because if I select all these and press F, it only makes a triangle. And that's fine. Okay, not really fine, but to fully close it in, we're just gonna extrude one vertice like this and press X. And I can just kind of move this as much as I want because of our mirror modifier using clipping, which is once again coming in clutch. Now, once again, we can select these two vertices, press F, and then select these edges and press F. There we go. We have, and now the best part is now, since we have a rectangle here, we can now like easily scale it like this. We can move it a little bit. We can move it a little bit if we choose to do so. And you know what? I think I'm just gonna leave it like a normal rectangle for now. Now I'm going to hide. Now I'm gonna try doing this side, but this chest is in the way. So actually, there's one thing I need to do first. Naming. Naming is obviously naming, so I'm pretty sure like naming helps with making things like not really confused on what you're actually clicking. I think naming should have been like one of the first things I've done, but due to bad practice, I keep forgetting. My bad. But let's actually fix that now. Let's fix that now. Let's do chest bottom, and we're gonna go on object mode and click this, and do chest top. And another bad practice I just did was I forgot to save. Please don't forget to save. There has been many times where I forgot to save, and then the program crashed, and then I cried. Anyways, I'm going to name this thing chest workshop yippee underscore. Okay, there we go. So once again, we're gonna kind of do the same idea here, same idea at the top of the chest. But this time it looks a little bit you might say slanted, and you might think that's fine, and actually it is fine. But I kind of want mine straight, and mine kind of flat. So here's some, I'd say this is like some edge manipulation that I like to do. I don't know if it's like proper, but it has helped me a lot of times in the past as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select all these edges, and I'm going to press S and scale in the direction I want. I think I'm selecting something that I should not be selecting. There we go. I'm gonna press S, then 0. Okay, I selected something that I was not supposed to select. I think I can just select. This is probably not the correct way to do it, but I'm just gonna simply select. Actually, you know what I could do? I could just simply select these faces. Actually, I could just simply select these faces. You see, I'm learning too, guys. Anyways, so once again, we can press S, then in the axis we want to do it in, and for this case, I'm gonna do 0. And so what actually just happened was that I basically told every face that if it had some Z angle in it, just set it to 0. And the way I did it was by squishing it down like a hydraulic press. And since this is just part of the edge, this is completely fine. However, if you ever work with like an actual object, once again, hello, cube, and you do that, please pay attention to right here. You notice how it says 110, so that means that if I, for example, go back into edit mode and try to extrude this thing up, it's not extruding. And the reason is because, once again, everything's flat and crushed. So in order to fix this, something you can do is you can go to Objects, Apply, and Scale. So this kind of resets and kind of normalizes everything once again. So, for example, the scale is back into 111. I think you can also do this with other types of things like location. Like, yeah, this also now turns into 000, making it its own origin. Don't need to worry about that right now, but that's something cool to know. All right. Back to this thing. I'm going to hide this bottom. Okay. Now, during this workshop, whenever you zoomed in, like let's say you zoom in too close to the top part. Have you noticed that it kind of gets a little bit slower and slower, and sometimes it doesn't zoom as much as you would like it to at times? No? Okay, maybe that's just me. But no problem, because you may have noticed that like the scrolling speed here and the scrolling speed right here is a little bit significant, or a little bit noticeable difference. So one thing you can actually do is you can kind of focus on which parts you want to select. Now I think selecting the dot. Okay, cool. And I was focusing on the wrong thing anyways. So you see, I'm trying to zoom in right now, but it's not really moving. And the main reason is because that's not in Blender's focus right now. Because right now, Blender thinks your main focus is like about this whole top part right now, but we kind of want to go a bit, we want to zoom in a bit. So one thing you can do is you can click View right here, and you can click Frame Selected. So you also has the numpad, the dot, but I'm guessing many of you don't have numpads, so instead I'm just going to click Frame Selected right here. And now, this time, I can freely zoom in and out like this, and move like that, about this one point. Anyways, let's actually start doing the stuff. All right, so we're just gonna select this and do that. I think I can also just do something like that and merge those two together, like that. That looks pretty decently. That looks pretty decent. Yeah. Now, once again, I can just also move this. Sorry, that's a face. I can move this like this. Maybe instead of extruding, maybe I should have like actually used the G tool instead. But honestly, that's really up to you. Okay, but now I kind of want this to be aligned with my those edges over there. Now, of course, I could also use like the scaled and Y tool again. However, I don't really think that's always gonna be the solution every time we have a situation like this. So something we can, if only like we could snap onto the edge and make it perfectly aligned like that. Fortunately for us, there is something called snapping. So in the snapping tool, we can there's many ways you can snap to an object. Like you can snap to its nearest edge, its nearest face, vertex, grid. For this case, I think grid vertex works. Sorry, vertex. And now we're also gonna turn it on by doing Shift Tab, or also pressing Snap. Now we're just gonna do G, then Y to make sure it only goes in this way, because if I don't do G and Y, it just snaps like that, which is not the most ideal. So in order to kind of constrain it to only on the Y-axis, we're going to press G then Y, like that. Perfect. Now once again, we're gonna do like fill tools, fill this in, fill these in. Yeah. I think I definitely should have used extrude instead of grab. And I think this is a good time to talk about it too. But let's say you have a edge like this, and you don't really need it. But if I delete it, it kind of does this, which is fine because I can just kind of fill it in like this as well. That works too. But something else I could do, just as a little piece of trivia, I can press something called Dissolve Edge. And basically what Dissolve Edge does is it pretty much dissolves it. The best way I can put it is like it dissolves it. So basically, it what Blender does is it kind of removes this edge and tries to, I'd say, merge the other surrounding edges together and make sure it looks, for the most part, okay. So yeah, I'm gonna dissolve this edge, and you see how it kind of, I'd say, dissolved with one of the edges right there, and now like we have a perfectly good square or rectangle in this case. But once again, I'm also gonna dissolve this edge too. Now, once again, press F to fill this in, and that looks decent. Okay, cool. I'll take that. Now, once again, we're gonna select all of our things, and this time things are gonna be a little bit different, and you'll see why. So I'm just gonna extrude this up a little bit. I forgot to turn off snapping. My bad. And I'm just gonna move this up, and I'm gonna try scaling a little bit. And this is where it's a minor inconvenience just slightly happens. Just a minor inconvenience, and the main reason that happens is because, like, if you notice, these edges kind of move this way. And of course, there could be many ways to deal with it, but the way I'm most familiar with it is if I just select these three vertices and just kind of dissolve. Oh, do not do that. Merge them at center. And now you might be wondering, or you might be thinking, could I just have instead like tried dissolving these edges instead? And the answer is yes. You could have also done that too. And that's probably what I should have done as well. But I'm just saying that there's many ways to do things in Blender, and so feel free to always experiment because that's what we like to do in Blender. For the most part, anyways. So I'm just gonna quickly dissolve these edges instead. Just so that we don't have to deal with the vertice problem for now. And just move this up a little bit, and so oops. We have this one edge. I guess we can just delete it. Anyways, and just do that. I have no idea what's going on there. There. That's you know where that probably came from. When I dissolved these edges, like Blender probably did something a bit funky. So for now, and for the sake of this workshop, I'm just gonna leave these be. But later, I do recommend trying to maybe be like, okay, I'm gonna try dissolving these edges. I'm gonna try dissolving this edge and this edge. I'm gonna try dissolving this edge as well, or maybe like delete it, and see what happens. I'm just see what happens. I'm just see that seems okay. That seemed okay, and I just experimented on the fly right there. So as long as okay, it's cool. I'm just gonna fill this in. Once again, I need to do the edge strategy like this. And once again, our mirror modifier is very nice because we don't need to worry about moving this too far there. Alright. Now, we can just fill this in, and now we are pretty much done with like the actual chest. Very cool. See, we have a decent chest, and of course, now, just for a little bit of practice, if you are curious, something you can do is you can also try adding, like, for example, the skull, and like for example, like I can just try attempting it just for now since we have time, but like for example, once again, I'd try to scale it down, maybe move it like this. Try to extrude downwards. maybe scale like this. I don't know. I'm just guessing right now. And we can just kind of move it like that, scale it a little bit. Maybe use a loop cut like that to cut it in half, and like that. Now, I will admit, I did that really fast. And so like one thing, instead of like thinking about like trying to copy every step by step, I'd recommend trying to be like, okay, so like this, I'm gonna look at this object, and this thing kind of looks cubic. So I'm gonna start with a cube. I'm gonna, of course, try to match it to size. Try to at least. And kind of adjust it so that I can it kind of try to adjust it so that it kind of fits. And maybe do that. And now, like, since I think it needs a bit more geometry, because if I move it more down, it's going to not work. I'm gonna try pressing extrude, things like that. Now I'm gonna try. I can either squish it down using the scale tool, or I can just simply move it like that. And once again, I can extrude it downwards. Once again, I can either scale it down or move it around. And now, since I haven't really added any new geometry other than extrusions, you will notice that most of these things are 4, which means I get to do a loop cut, which is really nice. I like loop cuts. Alright, now, the reason I did that loop cut was because I get to now select this vertex and move it like that. And that looks like a good skull to me. And of course I could go over the eyes, but for now wait, does anyone want me to go over the eyes? Okay, we're gonna skip the eyes for now then. And then I can also just slap that onto my chest. I can also slap that to my chest. So I'm just gonna name that skull. And just kind of hide it for now, because that was just for the funsies. Alright. So, now we've actually pretty much finished making our chest. But, which is cool and all, but I feel like something's missing. Maybe, I feel like something's missing. Maybe like, if we go here, like the viewport shading basically tells us what materials we have. It's kind of white, and I don't think treasure chests are just solid white. And so let's try to add some texture, some color, some cool stuff into it. So one thing we can do is we can go here into materials. So material basically tells us what does our object, it's like a material, like wood, plastic, rubber. In this case, I could try doing a wood, and maybe like moving it down a little bit, and but it's just kind of brown. Something that would describe wood a bit better is using an image, kind of like maybe like an image texture. So, in this case, I'm gonna go to Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome, whichever you use, and I'm gonna just search up wood texture. And there's a bunch of wood textures we can just easily use. And before you download any wood texture, I'm just gonna show you what I plan to do. So like for example, I'm just gonna try saving one. That is a .jff. I don't know if Blender can use that, but for now we're just gonna hopefully go here and try to download it. Just try to download it as like a JPG or a PNG. This looks you know what, this looks okay. I'm gonna save image as, yeah, that's a JPG, wood texture, grain, cool. Now I'm gonna click base color this yellow circle. Image texture, oops, and then it would ask you to open the image. So in this case, I'm gonna go to where's my downloads? find the thing, and it's gonna look like this. So once again, so basically what I did was that I searched up wood texture, and I chose a wood texture that I think looked okay for a chest. I clicked one. I save image as, and yeah, that's a JPG. Then once again, I went in here, I clicked image texture, and open, downloads. Let's see, where is that image texture again? I lost it. There we go. Now, you may, okay, maybe this is a bad example of a wooden texture, but let me switch to my other wooden texture that I had. There it is. Okay, you may notice it looks a little bit stretched. Like maybe especially at the bottom where things kind of looked a bit, yeah, they just look kind of stretched. Well, of course, like this itself is fine. However, let's try to make it, I'd say, not stretched. And so I'm gonna quickly, so up at the top, there's something called UV editing. Now I don't know what the UV means, but somehow that relates to texture maps. So we're just gonna click that, and you'll notice that when we are in this image, we can just press A, and we can just kind of see how the image is on iMesh. Now this looks probably not the most ideal. Not going to lie to you. So what I'm gonna do.
So the UV come from the first you already used.
Oh, interesting. Anyways, we're now gonna use this applied knowledge to press U, and basically this is this UV mapping. Honestly, I'm not the most familiar with texturing, but there's all sorts of different ways you can texture or ideas, and this time, for now, we're just gonna click unwrap angle based. Now, if we look at the wooden texture now, it looks a lot less stretched, a lot less stretched, and it doesn't look that bad. However, I have no idea what's going on in this image. I have no idea what's going on here, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because what's happening is that like it's taking this 3D image, 3D model, and it's trying to unwrap it like a 2D image. Try to unwrap it on a 2D image, kind of like a cube. Like, you know, like a cube net. It's similar idea. However, sometimes nets, in this case, sometimes nets don't always have to be, I'd say, touching. So it would be, so I think it would kind of be cool if maybe we could split it up a little bit, make it a bit more visible, understand which parts go where. And we're gonna do that by something called a seam. So if we're gonna go to layout, and we are gonna mark our seam. So in this case, I'm gonna go to edge, and maybe just click these ones. I think that's a good way to kind of cut open our object. I think that's a decent place. And we're gonna right click and press mark seam. Mark seam. There you go. And you can notice you marked your seam with this red cool line. Now let's go back to UV editing. Ah, nothing changed. Why is that? Well, that's because we haven't actually unwrapped it again. Now you see, we see now a difference. There's actually two objects this time. There's this object describing this section, and then there's this, and then the other object describes literally anything else about it. One thing you can do is if you go to object mode, you can actually also apply this image as well. And when you apply this image, you'll notice that it marks you see all the model now. Like, you see how how we used it to in the past, like only work with one quarter and then everything else just kind of followed. Once we actually apply something, that's actually now affected onto the model. Now we actually see all these edges, all these faces. And so once again, I'm just gonna press unwrapped angle base. And here we go. Now we have something a little bit more non-repetitive. Like for example, like this one, I mean, we still gotta fix that one, but you see how it's a little bit more non-repetitive. Now, one thing I actually think is really cool is that if you select and press L, which L basically means select everything that's connected to that one vertex. So that's why it's not. So like, for example, if I press this one and press L, it selects everything connected to that part, and I can actually scale it down. I can move it, and you see how the texture actually moves too. I think that's cool. I don't really know what to do with it, but I think that's a cool fact to know. I'm not really the most knowledgeable in texturing, as you can clearly tell. Anyways, let's go here, and once again, before I do anything, I'm going to click. Whoops! I'm going to click apply. I'm going to mark my seams. I'm going to try to at least. I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna do my very attempt to mark seams. Hopefully, just by selecting these. I feel like I did something a bit wrong during this workshop, but I think that's okay. The chest looks pretty chesty to me, so I think honestly, at the end of the day, if it works, I'm satisfied. All right, let's go back here. Okay, yeah, that's a weird UV map. So let's just unwrap that. Unwrap that. There we go. Almost had a heart attack there. Now we have a little bit of a more non-patterny. Hello. Yeah, now we have a more non-patterny model, which is very cool. Okay, now now once again, I'm not the most familiar with textures, but I'm gonna do something that worked for me. But also, guys, don't forget to save. Don't forget to save. And Owen, is your laptop dead? Ah, okay. Unfortunate. Anyways, so anyways, yeah. So, cool. We have a wooden chest, which is very nice if we wanted a wooden chest, but we want a little bit more. So, this probably isn't the best way to do it, but something we want to do now is we want to add metallic and like that iron stuff to our chest. So what we're gonna do is once again go in edit mode, and we're gonna go to X-ray mode. Maybe go back to viewport shading, and we're just gonna first of all bring that down there, and we're just gonna select. We're just gonna brutally select all these parts. Hopefully, at least. I'm going to try to at least. Maybe also like. And select some of this. Actually, no. Models just like select this. And for now, I'm just only gonna do the bottom part right now. And I'm just gonna show you what I'm actually gonna do. So, I'm gonna click a new material. And I'm going to. Maybe what color is silver? Don't answer that. I think it's red. I'm gonna make mine red. Feel free to change. Feel free to not. But anyways, I'm also gonna click assign. So basically, what happens is that this material is now assigned to the select faces I clicked. And so I'm pretty sure that my gold is not only red, but it's also a bit shiny. It's a bit shiny, so you might want to play with these two values and try to get a shiny feel for it. Now, I think my red gold should look kinda like, yeah, that looks, that looks pretty shiny to me. Something tells me that gold is yellow, so I'm just gonna actually switch to yellow. Switch to yellow like that. Okay, cool. Let's see what happens now. Okay. Now, let's now go select, oops. There we go. Sometimes Alt is a bit weird on how you select it, so you can hold, if I do it like this, it accidentally selects like this side. But if you somehow play around with it, it just kind of works. So I'm just gonna try selecting, no, not that. Yeah, I'm just gonna, now honestly, on hindsight, I probably should have done this before I did the mirror modifier. That's okay, that's okay. We learned from our mistakes, and you know what? That's also the beauty of Blender. Learning from mistakes, realizing what you should have done, realizing that maybe using the mirror modifier right now would have still been a good idea, instead of awkwardly now selecting every face and kind of clicking assign to gold. But you know what? It's a mistake that I made, and so I should at least try my best to make it fixable. Of course. My bad, guys. My bad. This is my bad moment. Okay, and I think that just slap going on that. I'm just gonna select all of these. Select all these. Oops, accidentally deselected that. Now, I'm not sure if this is like, I'm not sure if I should be saying this right now, but I just realized that maybe since all we just did was apply the mirror modifier, technically what we could do is we could have just also deleted 2/4 of this as well and just used to reapply the mirror modifier. But since I kind of already have everything golden, we're just going to roll with it and pretend I mirror modified in the first place. My bad, guys. My bad. Okay, that looks golden enough to me. Now, I want to open this, but when I rotate it, hang on, I see some extra faces. Okay, when I rotate this, it kind of rotates me like it's on a amusement park, which is not really the best idea unless you want this to be an amusement park. So one thing you can do is do something called move the origin, because how Blender works is that like when you rotate something, it always goes off that origin, which is why like if I scale this, it scales like this. So in order to fix this, we can click Options, Affect Only Origins, and maybe move this to maybe right here. This looks reasonably okay. Now be sure to deselect and go back to Origins, and there we go. An open and closing chest. Yeah, just be sure not to do that. Because like unlike other 3D modeling softwares, like does anyone know what Autodesk Inventor is? Yeah, exactly. It's like sometimes in the assembly there's like constraints you can apply to make sure it doesn't rotate a certain way. There might be constraints in Blender, but I do not know of them. But for now, we can just leave it like this. And also, I'm gonna just select these ones too and make them gold. Alright. Now, same idea here, we're gonna go here and select all of my faces here. And why did I accidentally select that one? I'm sure that's fine. Or maybe not. It's maybe not. Oh, accidentally did something. Oh, okay. We're just selecting things is hard. Okay, for now we're just gonna do something like we're just gonna kind of brute force our way into applying a material. Now, instead of reapplying that same golden material, something I can do is I can click this and press gold. And that's my Windows thing. That's my Windows thing. All right, let's see how I forgot to. There we go. Assign. There we go. Now I can just do the same idea here, where I can just select these faces, assign. Maybe even select the bottom too. Just for now. Just for now. And select these. And yeah, that looks reasonable as a chest, except these two parts. Let's turn this back into wood. Assign those back to wood, and assign those back to wood as well. All right. So this is cool and all. However, we're kind of missing the main important thing of a chest. And if you're asking, is it the things inside of it? And yes, the answer is the things inside of it. Now, what actually goes in a chest? Some people may say gold. Some people may say diamonds. But personally for me, I think it's dodecahedrons. Now, I'm not gonna ask you guys to model a dodecahedron because there's something called add-ons that already made a dodecahedron for us, which is very kind of Blender. So I'm just gonna save this real quick. Now I'm gonna go to, I think, edit, and in the top right here, top left. Oops. Oh, my battery's low. I should probably get a charger. Give me a sec. Charging session. Charging intermission. How much percentage are you on? At 6%, it's fine. It's fine. We're fine. Anyways, yeah, let's go to edit, then click preferences. Now, there's a bunch of add-ons that Blender has, and all these add-ons are hopefully here to make your life better. The ones we're looking for is called extra mesh objects. Now, you may or may not, like, if I type in extra mesh objects, do you guys not see this, or do you guys see this? Because you may not see this when you type this in. The extra mesh object. Because if not, that's completely okay. And something we can do is, if you click get extensions, just the one above it, it should be right there. And you can just click, if you find extra mesh objects, you can just kind of install that and then put that as an add-on. Are we all good?
How do you get to this one?
Yeah, so I clicked edit, preferences, or control comma apparently. Then I just clicked right there. So now I just want to install get extra objects and click add-ons. And then now if we type in extra mesh objects, it should show up right there. Hopefully. Is everybody good for that? Very cool. I don't know why, but I'm standing now. Okay, so once we enable that, we can now click add or shift A, one of the two. And you'll notice that you'll see these extra objects here. For us, we want a regular solid, and this is a tetrahedron apparently. I don't know what a tetrahedron is, but that's apparently what a tetrahedron is. If I click this, we have the legendary dodecahedron. And now there's many ways. Okay, so I like my dodecahedrons. Guys, name me a color.
405 nanometers.
Yeah, yes, dark green. Yeah, dark green. Actually, I can search that up later. So there's many ways to actually fill this chest in. I've seen videos about like using a physics engine to make the blocks drop in. I haven't really explored that too much, but I don't think we need to worry about that right now. And those are assuming our objects are kind of, I'd say, big. And so, like, I'd say let's just say that our dodecahedrons are small, and I don't really want to just like place one in. And I know some people that can just like that manually do it. It's really up to you. But I think one fun way I think one fun way that I can think of is using something called Blender's particle system. So basically, I'm gonna kind of manipulate the object a little bit, and I'm gonna first make a cube. I'm going to scale it down and just kind of make sure it actually fits within the box. Just make sure it kind of fits within the box. There we go. And now this is gonna be a bit scary, trust me, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So I'm gonna go to data, not object data, just data. And we see this thing called vertex groups. And basically what vertex groups are is like a group of... Yeah, all good. Yeah, all good, yeah. Anyways, so vertex groups is basically like a group of vertices that are in a group. And this is really good for particle systems because you can tell where you want these particles to be. And the way you tell them that is through a vertex group. So we're just simply gonna click, but since these are vertices, like if I make a vertex group directly on this face, it's gonna also go on the edge, on the sides as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to edit mode and press I to inset, inset, and for some reason, I'm not entirely sure why, Blender doesn't really like flat objects like this. So we're just gonna slightly move this up. I think this also works if like you just make the inset a little bit small. But for now, we're just gonna do the... Hang on. I think that's fine. I don't think we need to move it up a little bit. Let's just see. Anyways. Once again, add. We're gonna click add here. And we're going to click assign once we actually selected the face. So in order to double check that, we can just click off and click select. And now we have our vertex group selected. Now, in object mode, we are going to click here and click, this is particles. Now before you do anything, be sure to save. Because this may or may not lag your computer. So we're gonna click add a particle system, and we're gonna click hair. Now this is why it might lag your computer because there are 1,000 pieces of hair, but we don't want hair. We want...
Particle system.
Huh? Oh yeah. So we go here, then we click this plus sign. And now, in the rendering, we're gonna go to render, object, and so basically now it's expecting us to get an object. So we're just gonna choose this little green dodecahedron, and we see that this little dodecahedron is all around our chest, which is, I guess, cool, but we only want it on the front side. So this is where that vertex group we made comes in. So in the thing, if you scroll down, you should see something called vertex group. If you see density, that kind of tells us how dense or where is dense. So once we do that, there we go. All of our dodecahedrons are now on the top side of our chest. And it's cool and all, but all these dodecahedrons are like facing one way. If only we can like kind of randomize it, make it a little bit cooler, I'd say, in my opinion. So if we click advanced right here, it'll unlock something called rotation, which I don't know why is in advanced, but so be it. We are going to enable this, and And honestly, the best thing I would say for this is just play around with it. Like, I'm gonna click normal. I'm gonna click normal tangent. I'm gonna just click any of these. This. Maybe I kind of like this. Doesn't really matter because, and the reason why that doesn't really matter, but for now I'm just gonna click global X, is because there's something called randomize. And watch what happens when I randomize. But oh no! Look at that. All of it's kind of clumped. That's not really random. That's not really a type of random I like. So the reason Blender does that is because actually I don't know why. Blender's just mean. But something we can do is if you see distribution right here, we basically can tell Blender how to randomize our thing, and it uses jitter, which is that. So instead, we can just use random, and there we go. Now it's a little bit more random. However, I don't like this placement of like green dodecahedrons. I could add more dodecahedrons, but now that's a lot of dodecahedrons, and now this kind of looks like some low poly battlefield or field or whatever. So something I can do instead is I can change something called the seed. And basically, like, who here has played Minecraft? Like you see, so kind of similar to Minecraft, like the seed is just like how it generates the thing. So just feel free to play around with that, see what you like. Maybe add a bit more, maybe increase the scale, maybe use some randomness in it too. There we go. And now, we are pretty much almost done. Let me just quickly give this cube some gold. And also, if you're wondering, can like an object only have one particle system? And the answer is no. Actually, it can have multiple. For example, I'm gonna use the pink. Oops. I'm gonna make a new material. Then I'm gonna make it pink. Assign it in edit mode, of course. And then once again, since I'm just gonna make another particle system, hair, the same. It's gonna be like the same idea. So once again, going to rotation, render, object, like that. Once again, on the density, do like that. Maybe I want these to be a little bit bigger so I can scale it like that a little bit, but like maybe I want the number to be a little bit less, a lot less actually. Once again, change this to random. Scale, randomize the rotation to make it a little bit cooler. And scale. There we go. That is our treasure chest. That's pretty much the model. But, however, there's one more thing we need to do. And actually, that's importing it to the game. For the sake of time, I've only done it for Godot. So we're just gonna go on Godot. If you guys don't have Godot, that's completely okay. I can just kind of show you real quickly. But it's just booting up Godot. Blender Workshop test, I already set up a Godot for this. Alright. Now I will warn you that in terms of animations in Godot, I still need to look into that. But for models at least, while that's loading, I should get this set up. Yippee blend, there we go. And also, Blender also has a blend.1 file. From what I remember about it, it's just kind of like a backup. It's kind of like Blender's way of making a backup file. And so I think you can just rename that to blend and that it's just always fine. But also, Godot is taking a long time. But what's supposed to happen at least is that what you can do is you can kind of drag and drop this blend file into Godot itself. And you can just immediately like integrates. However, fair warning that sometimes the Godot rendering system and the Blender rendering system are slightly different. So for example, like if you import glass in Blender, it might not render it as glass in Godot. Also, one thing to note is that if you actually put the blend file into the Godot file, any changes you make in the blend file will also happen to the Godot file, and that's pretty much it, really. And my Godot turned crash. But yeah. Thank you guys all for listening. Hope you guys all learned something. But yeah.